Hi everybody, Shannon Petrovich with Therapist Talks. It's not all about the narcissist, how the dynamics of the co-parent affect the children. We've talked about some of what happens when you have a parent who's narcissist, but the entire family dynamic can be really challenging. If you grew up in this type of home, you know it's not just the narcissist who creates confusing dynamics. It's the role of the other parent, the co-parent, who has developed ways of coping with the narcissist that can also create their own confusion and hurt. How do you sort through all of this chaos? And how do you learn to step back and not get sucked into any of these dynamics? This video was inspired by a viewer who asked in the comments section about how to deal with their parent who never left the narcissist. Their parents are now older and the viewer wants to be close to the co-parent, but never wishes to have contact with the narcissist again. As an aside, please feel free to ask questions, leave comments and suggestions for future videos in the comments section below. All right, let's jump in. When one parent in a family is a narcissist, it's a lot like having an alcoholic or other addicted parent. The addict parent's focus of attention is on their drug or alcohol and not on parenting. The narcissistic parent's full focus is on themselves and their needs and no one else's. The result of this are many, and I've gone into depth in some of my videos: the narcissistic parent, adult child of narcissistic parent, and the golden child and scapegoat child videos on strategies for healing. But this video will focus on the other parent and how this impacts the children. When one parent is obsessively focused on themselves, the other parent has to learn to cope. We have to remember the co-parent started out as the main supply to the narcissist, and then they lived through all the ramifications of that. They've likely been molded to focus on the narcissist, to give them all of the attention they want and need, to build them up and keep the hot air balloon inflated for them at all times. They've gone through the implosions and explosions that happen when the narcissist didn't get what they wanted or needed, and now they took it out on them. They've likely become trauma-bonded and lost in the fog, the fear, obligation, and guilt that's present in any abusive relationship. And in addition, they become accustomed to living on the breadcrumbs the narcissist throws out to keep them hooked in. They've likely lost themselves, their awareness of their emotions, needs, wants, dreams, aspirations, as well as their sense of self and even sanity. When the couple decides to have children, this dynamic has to shift into a new dynamic, and this is often fraught with much chaos and confusion as the system finds a new equilibrium of sorts. How this unfolds is personal to the couple, but there are some common ways the system resettles. Number one, the co-parent falls into a martyr role. They feel they have to be everything to everyone, and they manage to pull this off a lot of the time, but they're doing it with a flavor of letting you know how it's killing them. They've lost themselves completely, and instead of letting the narcissist know how unhappy they are, which wouldn't be safe for them to do, they'll do everything with an attitude of resentment towards everyone. This is very painful to grow up with, and the feeling that usually settles in on the children is that they feel like they are a burden. This becomes unconsciously ingrained over time, and even though the main damage is done by the narcissistic parent, and that's serious and it's obvious, the damage done by this co-parent is more insidious. And because the children tend to feel sorry for the co-parent, and they have empathy for them and wish better for them, they want to protect them, and yet they're feeling hurt by them as well. These co-parents are not outwardly angry, but tend towards passive-aggressive comments, guilt trips, and just a sense that they love you, but your needs are killing them. Number two, the bitter parent. Some co-parents of narcissists become seethingly bitter about their situation. They internalize all the frustration and anger they're not allowed to feel around the narcissist, and they live in a bitterness that's palpable. For a child growing up around this parent, they often feel this anger is hatred of them. They often feel like they can't do enough to help or distract the parent from their bitterness and anger. Some kids will try endlessly to please this parent, while others give up and become oppositional to everything. The children will even sometimes gravitate to the narcissist in this family, as that parent can often be lighter and more entertaining. This creates even more bitterness for the co-parent, who feels even more angry and frustrated that no one seems to care for them and they've lost everything and for nothing. Number three, the depressed parent. Some co-parents fall into deep depression. After all, they've lost themselves in such complete and profound ways. This seems obvious and almost inevitable. But this is especially hard for a child to handle. They often feel responsible for a parent's depression. I've had so many adult clients say that they always felt like if they were a better kid, their parent would not have been so depressed. They live their lives trying to make that parent get out of bed and have some fun. Of course, they're not capable of fixing this family dynamic or helping their parent with their depression, so they carry feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, way into adulthood. Number 4, the everything's fine, totally perfect co-parent. This parent acts as if everything is going great in the family. Their perfectionism is rigid and extends to each person in the family. Very often the outside world buys into this story, and this helps the co-parent keep up the facade they need to in order to keep the plates spinning in their lives. But the result for children growing up in this home is a heavy weight of expectations that they feel they can never fulfill. This parent is so put together that the child feels, I can never be as perfect as that parent. So they live in a constant internal anxiety. They will often feel inadequate, unworthy, hopeless, and helpless. They may struggle with anxiety, depression, and also a sense that they don't really know what's real and what's fabrication. The falseness of this family is really hard for kids to live with. They feel they're expected to put on the false front as well. And some kids will do that and act like everything's fine when they're really not okay inside, while other kids will want to blow up this false facade of the family, and they'll do the most outrageous things to get the attention on what's really going on. Many will also become very dishonest and manipulative as they see this being modeled for them. The co-parent often doesn't see how portraying a false front to the world is inadvertently teaching these principles. When you're the child or adult child of these two parents, the narcissist and the co-parent who's lived their lives in one of these roles, it's a confusing dynamic for you to navigate. The depression, martyrdom, anger, bitterness, and falseness is not your doing, and yet you often feel responsible on some level. There are no easy answers except to start with, number 1, see the truth. Learning about and unraveling how these family dynamics played out in your life can really be helpful. It gives you the perspective you need to help you realize none of this was your doing. You didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. You can also realize that the co-parent was likely doing the best they could to cope with the abusiveness of the narcissist. And though they may have inadvertently taught you some lessons you wish they hadn't, or hurt your heart in ways that were painful, they were likely doing the best they could at the time. Number 2, if your co-parent was the toxic perfectionist type, look at how that's impacted you and begin to unravel where that really originated. When you understand that your parent was just holding it together the best they could at the time, and this was all just a coping strategy, you can let go of the toxic perfectionism. Number 3, speak the truth. Tell your truth and don't get drawn into any of the falseness or lies. When you recognize the truth, you can learn to stay out of the midst of the chaos by not buying into any of the extraneous triangulations, stories, or other drama. Learn about healthy communication strategies and stick to them no matter what's going on around you. Don't let yourself get drawn in. Stick with how you feel, what you need, what you can offer, and your boundaries. If you want to see crucial communication strategies, a video that I did on this structure. Number 4, listen for the truth through the chaos. Try to hear what each person is actually feeling, needing, and respond to those truths rather than the chaotic and twisted communications that are often fraught with guilt trips, passive-aggressive comments, triangulations, and hurtful comments. Number 5, watch the circus go by without being caught up in it. This is probably the most challenging and the most important skill to learn and practice. Learn to emotionally step back and watch the circus. Keep your heart and emotions protected with the knowledge that this is not your circus, not your monkeys, and the 3 C's are really true. You didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. And then just watch this dynamic, seeing the painful and hurtful and confusing things for what they are, merely other people's coping strategies and the troubling dynamics in their own relationships. When you separate your emotions, you can stop personalizing what's not about you. Even a direct attack is mostly about their own pain and coping strategy. Let it go, watch it go by without attaching to any of it. If you've appreciated this video, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell so you'll be alerted when another one comes out, and share it on your social media. You never know when something you share might help someone else. And feel free to leave any comments, questions, or suggestions. Thanks so much for watching. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you again soon.